are you, brother?
Another appearance.
Another appearance. How many have we done now? Is it 5?
I'd say yeah. If you include the one that I was on yours, I'd say it must be at least coming up on 5. We missed one last year, which is unfortunate. I was away in Brazil at the time, so we just obviously didn't cross paths, unfortunately, but we still stayed in contact, as always, which is good. A good story, I think, to start off the podcast with. People always ask me, and Senya was actually asking me the other day about how we keep such a tight friendship. Me and Owen have been friends for over 15 years now, 16 years I'd say, even longer. And kind of a nice story to go back to is that the day that I changed school, so I actually went to a different school for the first 3 weeks in secondary school, and I couldn't get the bus to that school, so I had to change to this Inverna. So obviously I was in first year, I was coming in, I didn't really know what I was doing. Everyone had kind of made their friends because it was about 3 weeks into it, I'd say. So people had made their little groups. And I remember we were in Woodwork, and I walked up to this man, and I was kind of a little bit hesitant going around. And Owen said to me, "Hey, big man, you're with me." And from day one, we've been together since. So it was a nice little one. I always thank you for that. It was a nice introduction into a new school, and no better way to meet someone as well, because obviously it speaks to the quality of the man who's sitting beside me. So Oni, I always have to tell that story. It's a nice one to come back to. What have you been up to?
Yeah, man. Firstly, I love that story so much, and we had such a laugh in the following years from that story. Like it's been one hell of a journey, and it is actually incredible that we've kept such close friendship as well, because we have been all over the world in different places. We've had different phases and chapters of life since then, and we've really made an effort, both of us, to like maintain that friendship and just make it even stronger and build it over time. So yeah, I think that was one of the best things I ever did, was to make that comment to you in the woodwork room, and I probably looked at you and was like, he looks like he could get into trouble with me. and the rest is history.
The rest is history, is right.
Yeah, that was the first thing I wanted to say. Thank you for sharing that, and it's a very fond story. I love to hear it, because yeah, it's got some great memories since then, many. What have I been up to? We're actually in my living room right now. So
in Sofia, Bulgaria.
We're in Sofia, Bulgaria. I've been here just over a year now. Moved here for multiple reasons, and have been basically working around the clock the last 12 months or so. I moved fully into business mentorship. So the last few times I was on the podcast, I was in the fitness coaching space. I was doing a lot of extreme sports, skydiving, all that kind of stuff, a lot of traveling. Things have changed quite a bit this last 12 months. I am fully committed on one front in terms of business and gone all in on the mentorship. I'm absolutely loving that. I'm in a committed relationship for going on 5 months now. I'm also just really focused on not traveling and not doing a lot of crazy. It's not quite true actually, I've traveled quite a bit, but I'm trying to pull back the traveling a little bit, stay in one place, stop doing all of the crazy adventures for the moment, for the time being.
Yeah.
And my full focus for the next year or two is business building, sales and marketing, Instagram. I think there's a huge opportunity, and there's a lot of things changing very fast, particularly in the online business space. So it's exciting, and I guess unnerving a little bit as well for a lot of people who don't really know what to do and where to go. So it's it's a time of big change and big opportunity.
Yeah, it's an interesting, because it's something that we, like, if you look at the podcast that we've done to speak on the idea of traveling, and we've done one in Tenerife, we've done one in Barcelona, we've obviously done one in Ireland, now we're doing one in Sofia. Another time I was in Brazil. You could have been in Sofia?
Don't even know where I was. I can't remember. Yeah.
So a lot of different locations and jumping around, but there is something to be said for finding a location, sticking with it for a little bit of time, and kind of getting in the groove and getting in a routine. I think a lot of people, when they look at the idea of the nomad lifestyle, and this is something that I spoke about in my yearly reflections recently, is that it looks really good on Instagram, because people go to Bali for whatever amount of time, they put up all their pictures, and it looks really, really nice, and it is, and Bali is an unbelievable place to live for a while. But the only thing about it is you can kind of it has an impact on efficiency and work. Okay, I think that's one thing. So if you're working for yourself and you're doing it, you need to be a little bit more intelligent about your moves when you change somewhere, how long you're going to stay there, what systems are in place. And I think over the last year, especially over the last couple of years, but especially the last year for me, really looking at systems of life and systems of ways of living has been huge. And I think it's been really helpful for trying to, when I go to a new place, or if I'm trying something new with the business, or if I'm trying something new with, let's say, jiu-jitsu or with training, I'm always looking to apply some type of a repeatable basic system that I can then look to refine and improve. And if I have to make changes, I'll make those changes. What way are you now at the moment with systems in your life? Let's say look at your personal life first, and then we might look at your business life then after that.
Yeah, I've systemized a lot of stuff now. So I can give you a good example. I'll take you back to the start of the year because this is an interesting story. So I moved to Sofia. I came here in November of 2023, get my dates mixed up, for a month just to check it out on my own. I knew a few people who'd been here. I know it was really good. I knew it was very good for business. I knew it was a real hub of entrepreneurs. Seasons, good weather, skiing, snowboarding, skydiving, really good quality of life, beaches, very well connected to Ireland, well, not so much Ireland, but to Spain and mainland Europe, also halfway between Asia and Dubai and mainland Europe as well, so strategically placed. But I basically came here for those reasons, and I knew nobody.
Yeah.
And I had one or two friends who I knew would probably follow me over because we were talking about it before, but I initially came here at the start, and I just had to systemize. I wanted to build a social circle in 6 months. And so I looked at social life from the perspective of a business. And over the course of 6 months, myself, and then after maybe 2 months, Yannick, my housemate and close friend, joined me. And we systemized building a social circle and running events. And in 6 months, it's fair to say our apartment now that we're recording this in is probably the best apartment in the city of whatever 1.5 million people for events. Xenia, my girlfriend, had a meditation event here with 26 girls the other night. We got kicked out, we had to go to the gym. Doing business related events here, doing podcasts here. It's obviously perfect podcast setup. We've done multiple parties and theme parties and Halloween parties and Christmas parties and all these things. But the point here is that in a very short space of time, we built up from scratch a thriving social circle where we could easily get 40 or 50 people to come to parties. We could easily get into circles of entrepreneurial people. And it was really just systems. And when we figured out the systems that worked, we just doubled down on them, and then we became more efficient at them. And that's just systemizing things is so important. And I'm helping all my clients right now to systemize things in business, just even from daily tasks. And I'm currently this year, I may as well share it here because I'm on the podcast, I'm doing a 2025 goal of building my mentorship to 250k run rate at the end of the year. And that's a big goal, but I've really just broken it down really, really simply and systemized the whole thing where it's okay, well, this is what I want to do in a year. What do I need to do in a month? What do I need to do in a week? What do I need to do in a day? And then it's just a process of actually showing up and ticking those boxes. And you can systemize pretty much everything. And I think it's so important.
Yeah, there's two sides to systems. There's they're really good points about the idea of I'm sure a lot of people have thought about building a social circle, but you probably haven't thought too much about how to systemize something like that and how to improve something like that. So I want to come back to that and talk about that in a second. But another way I want to look at this is you have two ways. So if you systemize something, or if you're in routine, it's a little bit more challenging to be creative, okay? But so you need to jump over and back, and this is something that I've come to notice as well. You have to have your systems, but the rules are there to be broken in ways as well. Mm-hmm. You have your way going, but there's certain times you have to go left and right. And when I was looking at jiu-jitsu last year, one of the big things that I had to systemize is, okay, what's step 1, then what's step 2 after that, and what's step 3 after that. So if I catch an arm and I go to the arm, underneath the arm, what's the next step after that? I might go for a body lock. What's the next step after that? So even though when you look at these combat sports or any sport, it looks like that's kind of, geez, that worked out well. Oftentimes it's not that it worked out well. Oftentimes it's that they just know more steps of the system than the person does. Okay, and that's a lot for people who don't understand boxing or UFC, but you enjoy it, you like the fighting aspect of it. They are generally applying systems, seeing what works, and then looking to pick up tactics and strategies and apply it to that then as well. And I talked about that in a different podcast on my experience of pain, the thing that changed my experience of pain, and it was basically talking about how I broke my nose in a fight once, and it was the idea of reframing what was after happening. So you can check that podcast out. It's a few before this as well. But the idea of systemizing is so important, because when I look at the back pain back to exercise group, it's the same thing. It's like, these are the things that if 80% of people do this, it's going to work, okay? And then for the last 20%, we're going to make little changes, okay? So there's like little things that you need to do. And that's what it is. We're basically bringing people into the group, and the same when people come on board with me, we're applying a system, and we're going along that path to see how much you can gain from that before you have to drift off. Because once you start to change variables in something, it becomes a lot more challenging to develop, okay? So just for people who are thinking well, he's talking about business, that's another way you can apply it to injury, or if you have an issue that you're dealing with. It's the same thing. You systematically need to have good sleep. You systematically need to have good hydration. You need to have good diet, and your stress management techniques and your movement and activity needs to be good as well. So it's all about picking that out, and you can break that down into more detail once you have a basic system. Now let's talk about the social aspect.
Sure.
How does one apply a system to a social event or to a networking, let's say looking at it from a networking point of view in a new country?
Sure. So first and foremost, I think the first thing that I did was I looked at my assets. Not necessarily hard assets, but what assets did I have as a person? I was social, I was confident, I was able to walk up to a stranger and start a conversation. That wasn't a problem for me. I knew that I could bring people together. I knew that I could add value to people as well. So I knew it was really just a case of, I bring a lot of value, I'm socially calibrated, and I know how to interact with people, and I know how to make people have a good time, basically. I hope at least I'm good company to be around. I think I am. People tell me I am. But I looked at those, with some level of humility, if I can do that. I looked at those things and I was like, okay, these are some strong points in my character. And for me, those strong points are social. My weak points are attention and getting distracted, but they don't really matter. They don't really harm your social capability. So I'm lucky that my strong points happen to be in the social realm, firstly. You can still build those up if you are not in the social realm. And I use those strong points, and I had small daily behaviors, meet one new person every day.
Yeah.
So easy to do. And I would walk up and talk to someone in the gym.
Yeah.
And people find that weird. But before social media and phones and all of this, you would walk up to someone, a girl, a guy, whatever, for some reason you would be like, I'm interested in talking to this person.
Yeah.
And you would just walk up and say, hey, what's up? I'm Owen.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, what's up? And then you're in a conversation. So I systemize it down to, okay, let me do that. But then I kind of need somewhere to send them. And this is the same, right, as business. It's bringing people into your world and then having something to bring them further along. And it was really, really just about finding things that were aligned with me that would also provide value to other people. So for example, I went to a co-work, I started working there, I started sharing some value with people, helping people out with their business and stuff like that. And then I got asked to be a mentor at one of their events and to talk and present to lots of people. So I started to meet more people like that. Then I met some cool people who were into photography, content creation, online business, marketing, just all the things that I find interesting. And over time, I started to meet more and more of the right people. And then when my friend Yannick arrived here, we both worked together to basically run events, which are more social, but just a way of meeting people. And I've picked up a lot of clients from my business coaching and fitness coaching through my social circle.
Yeah.
And so those were things that we kind of ran quite frequently. We did a really simple thing of every Thursday night, we would go out and do something. And it didn't matter, but we did it enough times that people were like, Thursday night, what's happening?
Oh, yeah.
And people would text us, what are you doing tonight? And then we would use Instagram close friend stories to basically promote the Thursday nights. And you could only add the people who you wanted onto the close friends list, and then you would post a story and people would reach out. And it got to a point where we were doing shisha nights on the roof, we were doing parties here, we were doing nights out to local kind of cocktail bars, we were doing day trips to the dog shelter to walk the rescue dogs and that kind of stuff. So a wide variety of things that were just interesting to bring people together. And it's then this kind of compound effect. And it was really just systemized down to what do we need to do every day, what do we need to do every week. Daily tasks are meet new people, bring them into our world, provide value. Weekly tasks are have some sort of an event that provides value that people want to attend and then will continue to show up to. And initially, first few weeks, it was like tough going. Like you don't know anyone, so you have to start from scratch. And we basically put a party together in like a week. We knew nobody and we had like a week to put a party together. And we got like 15 or 16 people at the party within a week in another apartment before we were here. And it was a success. And it was then, we created some content off the back of that, we promoted it, and then we actually really, really made it efficient where, we were running like Instagram ads and filling parties through Instagram ads, and people were coming and, having a guest list and all this kind of stuff. So, but it just took off, and it just relied on skills and taking action and then just showing up and doing the basics. But like you said, you can systemize anything.
Yeah.
If you've got pain or mobility issues, it's not like there's going to be this one magic pill that fixes everything. I guess, I'm not the pro here, but you can back me up. It's a series of daily habits and probably insight into your own mental and physical well-being done over time, consistently, that compounds over time and gives you results, right?
That's exactly what it is. Like, and if people can look at it in whatever way you want, and the thing about it is to not make it sound as simple as like it is just do this. It is just do that, but there is mental barriers. There's barriers that are going to stop you. There's lack of, let's say, if people start relying on motivation more so than discipline, that can start to contribute as well. There's a lot more factors that will impact your ability to stay consistent, but as you say, once you're aware of where you're falling down, all you need to do is look at it, improving those factors. Okay, so one of them, for like a really simple one, is that if you start saying to yourself, oh no, I can't believe this is happening again, I'm after doing something bad. Like, if you start speaking like that to yourself when a flare-up is happening, you will amplify that flare-up and you will amplify everything that comes after it. And that's, again, there's elements within the course and the work that I do. It's trying to tell people that, okay, well, we just need to make sure that if that mindset crops up, we use this one instead. Okay, and you're reframing. A big thing as well that I've looked at the last year is reframing and really understand, like, trying to look at something in a different way. And big help was Brian Keane, Fitness, if anyone. It was actually Owen who originally put me onto him, but I was working with Brian the last year, and he had a really good perspective on that of okay, well, we can look at any way we look at anything, you can always reframe it, and you can change the picture with how you view it. And a lot of the stuff that when I'm working with one-to-one with people, or if I'm working in the group with people, and I'm sure Owen will be the same, and I know he is the same actually, because recently we had a conversation on this about the following and my following and the people that I was looking for. And basically what you're doing is you're saying to them, okay, we don't look at motivation anymore. What we're going to look at is we're going to measure our levels of discipline. That's such a simple one, okay? Because then you're not waking up in the morning saying, do I feel like doing this? It's you get up in the morning and you say, okay, this is something I have to do. So there's a lot of reframing that you can do around these things. Another simple one is when you have an injury for a long time, people in your environment will ask you about it. Everyone in your environment will say, how is that injury? How's your back today? Are you okay? Should you be able to do that? And it's how you reply to that, how you respond to that makes such a difference. And people don't realize that, but it really does make a difference. When we look at we'll say anything of systems and reframing. When we look at some of the main issues that people run into when they're getting started with their business, because we haven't spoken about this as much yet. Dobin's made a transition this year. Owen made a transition this year. Sorry, I always say Dobin's.
That's all right. That's all good.
Owen made a transition this year into the mentoring space, and he's doing unbelievable work. He's helped me massively over the last while, with even refining some of the systems that I felt that I knew well. And the funny thing is, I've been doing social media longer, and he has all the systems. So it's something that you have to put the ego aside and say, okay, this man knows what he's talking about, and he has proven what he's talking about, and you can see the results. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit about people who are going online, the reframing of maybe the mindset of getting clients, of what they have to do, of finding people to work with. Let's go down that path for a second.
For sure. There's a lot of directions you can take
Oh yeah.
that thread. I think one of the first things, and you're a great example of this, is you gotta have a great service. That's the first thing, and you won't have that on day one, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're getting into online coaching, you won't have a great service on day one. Don't care who you are. You simply just have to go through some processes, learn some systems, as you've said. So I think just long-term vision and commitment to the process, and reframing failure, because you're going to fail a lot at the beginning of an online business journey. I know I've failed probably more times than anyone. You know, I've learned all the lessons the hard way. You know, I've really not made it easy for myself. But as a result, I've learned a lot off the back of that. And so I think just to give Brian his dues as well, because you mentioned him already, Brian Keane. He was a great mentor to me back in the early days, helped me with setting up the podcast. He wrote a great book as well called Rewire Your Mindset. I have it in the room if you want to read it. But, you know, this whole failure is just feedback. Focus on getting better at what you're doing and getting your clients results. And just be committed for the long haul. Like, I think those are three ideas that you need to have, or three ways of thinking that you need to have when you go into online business. And then you can look at all sorts of things, because people get everything wrong. They don't know how to create an offer, they don't know how to create content, they just post stuff, they don't actually think. There's the coaching element, there's the business element. I can go specific on any of those, but it's a very, very broad area. And you know, we spoke for quite a while over the last few days about like specific areas, and you could speak on those areas for 5 hours without a problem.
Yeah.
So if there's specific areas or specific questions that you have, I'd love to answer those. But in terms of just getting started, be committed for the long haul, frame failure as feedback, and put your clients and their results as one of your top priorities. And that's the kind of baseline. That's the baseline things that you need to actually go on and be successful long term. And then you can build everything else on top of that.
Yeah, and the thing is that all of those principles are simple ones that we can apply to life as well. If we start to reframe the idea of failure in any situation, like if we stopped, or if anyone that I knew who has done something that I'd like, Jesus, I like what they've done, if they stopped at the first failure, or the second one, or the third one, they wouldn't admit it. Because a lot of times when you make a mistake, or if you do something and it doesn't work exactly as you want it to work, the demons come out.
Yeah.
The demons come out, like,
for sure.
and they can hold you back. And I think that's a big thing that applies to everyone, not just in business. But if you start to let that mindset creep in, and if you let it kind of take over more so than it should, I would love to get on the path of mindset now for a minute. But I think that we often forget now. There's a couple of ways we can look at this, and there's no way that I would ever tell anyone, okay, that this is what you have to do when it comes to mindset. But you have conscious control over your thoughts in the majority of situations. And if you want to see one of the situations that you start to lose that control a small bit, you still have it, but you can kind of lose it. The guys here were doing a burpee challenge yesterday, or if you're going for a long run, or if you're doing something like jiu-jitsu or a hard workout, that is when the demon starts to come in and starts to tell you can't keep going, you need to stop. But you still have control over that a little bit. Now, obviously the people who are at the top of their game, the most disciplined, they're the ones who have real good control of that. And if you're just getting into something new, you won't have as much control over that. Okay? So what I want to look at is building that resilience. How do you work on building resilience so that when that comes into play, you're able to kind of at least keep yourself on path, or keep yourself on track for a little bit more time.
Yeah, resilience is a key word there as well. I think failure is feedback is a form of resilience, right? And I guess it doesn't really matter what journey you're on, even if it's something simple like doing your certain set of exercises every day in order to improve how you feel.
Yeah.
Or journaling, or meditating, or whatever it is that you do to be more in tune with yourself. Maybe work out what the cause of your pain is, or maybe work out what the cause of your procrastination or distraction. And it's all the same thing. It's all down to you being resilient, you showing up, and just being able to reset as well. I have no idea how many times I have fallen off my cadence
Yeah.
of work that I was supposed to do, or things that I was supposed to do, where I got overwhelmed, I took on too much, but I just always got back on it. I was like fully committed to, no matter what, this is going to work.
That's it. That's powerful as well. People
the
don't
only
realize.
way this is not, you will have to kill me to stop it. Genuinely, you would have to kill me to stop it. And that's, if you can take that attitude to whatever problem it is that you're going through, or whatever thing you're trying to solve, and just be like, I'm so committed to this that the only thing that's going to stop me is if you actually finish me altogether. You can't lose that challenge.
Yeah.
You know, you will inevitably get there if you show up and do the actions. I think resilience is just massive, because you're going to get kicked on your ass more times than you can possibly imagine. And I don't know about you, by the way, but when I got into online business, I had this dream. I had this dream of lying on a beach, drinking pina coladas, not having to do any work.
It completely automated.
So easy. Not the case. I think, had I known how much hard work I would have to do, and I had seen how difficult the journey could be, I probably never would have started.
Yeah.
But I'm this far now, I'm like, it was absolutely worth every bit of it. And if you're considering getting into online business, do it. Just 100% do it. It will be difficult, it will be challenging, but it will be the greatest thing that you ever do for yourself as well. So like a great journey of self-development, because you do develop those things, those characteristics, resilience, calm, I think, amidst chaos.
Yeah.
And just self-belief and ability to reframe failure and challenges and come out on top again.
I think a great reframe for failure as well, and this is something that I picked up when I was boxing originally, but I remember that it stuck with me and it really resonated when I started the online, was that someone said you can never fail in business until you stop. That's the only time that you can ever fail. And it was the same in boxing. You can lose a fight, but you only really fail within a fight if you give up and you stop. And that really stuck with me. It really did stick with me. It's like, it's something that, okay, so that means if I reframe failure, if I want to achieve something, and if I reframe failure as it's completely down to me, I have to take complete responsibility, and as soon as I call it a day and give up, that means that I failed.
Yeah.
But that's me that has to do that. And unfortunately, or very fortunately I should say, the ego just doesn't let me do that. because I have to admit to myself that I was the one who did it. And it's grand admitting to everyone else. But I think when you have to start admitting that to yourself, it becomes a little bit more challenging, because you make a promise to yourself to do things. So I think that reframe of you only fail when you stop was a powerful one to keep me on track. And it can be as well for you if you're going through an injury, if you're coming back from anything, if you're getting back into business, if you're going down a new path, if you're trying something new, you can use that frame. You do only fail when you stop.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's a powerful frame. And I think, of course, there will be, that's true failure. Like you only fail when you actually give up.
Yeah.
And at least in my model of the world, and at least the way I view things, my worst case scenario is I get a normal job and I work till I'm 65.
Yeah.
That's still fine. Like, I'm still going to be absolutely fine. I'm still going to live a good life. I'm still, like, failure is not even that bad, right?
From the online business, you're saying?
From the online business side of things,
yeah.
Failure is not even that bad. And I think, again, it doesn't matter what. If you do fail, so what?
Yeah.
Start again.
Yeah.
Like, you only truly fail if you actually give up, and you will have lots of mini failures in whatever journey where it feels like failure.
Yeah.
But it's not. Most of the time, okay, you do well for a few weeks and you fall off track. It's not over. It's not over till you say it's over. That's from some movie, isn't it? It's not over till you say it's over. I'm not sure what it's from. But
sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. That's a big one. For jiu-jitsu, is if you're getting into something like that, there will be days that you will be the hammer and you'll come out of there like shoulder back. But the overwhelming majority of days you're going to be the nail.
You're going to be the
and
nail.
You're going to get your hammer. And it's like, and I think that if you're able to stick on track with that as well, it's really important. And the idea, I think we should clarify as well, when we look at like success and failure, that's completely in our perspective of what success and failure is. So someone else's success could be completely different.
Sure.
Could be completely different. Based off of what you've come from, where your background is, what you've grown up with, completely understand that. I think that sometimes we can get caught in other people's perception as well of what a good life is. And if you start living like that, it can be hard to get out of. I've seen it happen to people where they're saying, I need to be this way, or I need to do this, I need to do that, and they're chopping and changing, and they're just completely, how would you say, you could if you could go inside their head, you could see that it's all up in the air. You know, there's no real consistency, there's no real refinement in it. And what's happening is they're not really living by their values, what they're living by what they think other people think good values are. When it comes to going down a path, working on something for yourself, working on yourself, I think you need to be connected to what you really value as well. Because if you do that, and I spoke about this on Brian's podcast recently, if you're not authentic to yourself, you're going to chop and change. Because the grass is always greener on the other side. When you're in a challenging position, when you're in a position that you're like, oh Jesus, I'd love to achieve that, but it's too hard, I could try this new avenue, and then you go down this new path. And that happens to a lot of people as well, I should say, not just to bring back to the pain side of things, but that happens to a lot of people with back pain who are doing some new thing, like they're trying some new, I don't know, herbal tea for fat loss is probably a simple one, or they're trying something new, like for back pain, where they're trying a new type of ultrasound that's just come out for it, and they try it for 6 weeks, it feels better, and then they know themselves that they're not really doing what they should be doing, because they have been given the exercises, they have been given all the stuff that would really rebuild confidence in the system and help them to get better. But because this new shiny object is there, you're more aligned to go down that path. And I think that's one thing that we need to be careful of, is that if you're looking to go after something, if you're looking to achieve a goal for yourself, make sure that you're authentic to that goal, I believe. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've definitely climbed the wrong ladder before.
That's the word. Perfect.
Yeah, for sure. I climbed the wrong ladder with the fitness business, to be honest, at the start, because I just chased the revenue numbers.
Yeah.
And I didn't focus on the people. I gave a great service and great results to the people that I worked with, but I didn't define who I wanted to work with or what I wanted the business to look like.
Yeah.
So I ended up working with a lot of people that were not aligned. I'm ambitious, I'm driven, I'm probably a little bit over the top in most areas of life. I always have been, I've always been in trouble, I've always done crazy things, I've always done risky things, you know, even more recently extreme sports and that kind of stuff, and before that anything that was dangerous and fun and exhilarating, you could bet your boots I was interested in that. I'm definitely a specific kind of person, and I found myself working with a lot of people who were just completely different to me.
Yeah.
And I just didn't connect or resonate with them. I was a huge risk taker, and I was a huge believer in self-development, and I had a lot of self-belief.
Yeah.
And I was trying to pass on, I guess, my ambition and self-belief and love for the things that I love to people who just couldn't care less. And that was okay for them, but it just was not a good match. And so I remember in 2021, I think, I had like a 9k month, and I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
It was like the most I'd ever done in terms of sales, but I really didn't enjoy it. And I actually, in the 2 or 3 months after, really kind of took the foot off the gas and let it go way back down again, because I just wasn't bought in and interested, and I was not enjoying the people I was working with, and basically just climbed the wrong ladder. And it took me a long time, by the way. I absolutely love business. I eat, sleep and breathe business, online business specifically. And I loved sales and marketing. I loved reading about that kind of stuff. I loved reading about systems. I loved reading about efficiency. I loved reading about all these just new and novel and interesting ideas. And yet I was giving people meal plans, which just wasn't in alignment. And you mentioned, fear of getting started or at the start of the journey. I had fear of stepping into the mentorship space, because there was all these little voices. Oh, you haven't been in online business long enough. I've been in online business like 6 years. Certainly, when I actually rationally think about it, I'm like, I know some stuff, and I'm fully self-sufficient, for those 6 years, and work with hundreds of people. So once I got into it, and then people started getting amazing results, and I realized how good the service was, and I had no problem valuing myself that way, but definitely initially I was scared to maybe make the jump over. I was scared that people wouldn't maybe want to work with me, or people wouldn't maybe respect my opinions on things because I hadn't been in the space long enough and all these kind of things. But then as soon as I made the change, I realized, wow, my ladder is up against the right wall.
Yeah.
I love what I do. I have so much excitement and energy. You see my energy when people are winning, and you see my down energy as well when like I don't get my work done and I expect something of myself. It's not good. I'm like angry, and you know, it's not all plain sailing. But I have a lot of energy and a lot of passion for it, and that passion is always shown. And I feel now I'm certainly living authentically. I said to you before, like before I used to just always kind of dress in my gym clothes all the time, and I just realised I personally feel good dressing a little bit sharper. I feel like
Is that a dig?
No, not at all. You always look smart. You know, I would be going around in Nike Air Max and a pair of grey tracksuits. You know what I mean? It's a different look. This is a sophisticated. This is a sophisticated look, but just small things like, okay, I'm in the business space. I find that, you know, I maybe didn't dress that way before because I was like a fitness person.
Yeah.
And I just had that kind of identity. But I realised like deep down that I like the nicer things in life. I love this big apartment. I like dressing well. I like all these things. And I kind of I wasn't authentic to that before because it didn't feel in alignment, but the entire thing I was doing wasn't in alignment.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm very much in alignment, and you know, my other half sitting over here in the corner is very much in alignment with me now as well. And I think for a long time that whole area of my life wasn't in alignment with business building and you know, and areas that I want to improve in. So yeah, I've had a lot of success in things that were not actually fulfilling or authentic to me.
Yeah.
And I learned the hard way.
It's a different type of success for sure. It's like something that you're not. It's more of like what do you call it? It's like something you frame and you put over to the side. What's that called?
Like more of a trophy, or
it's a trophy. Yeah, it's a trophy. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a trophy success where people say certain things or have like you. That's one thing that you notice about when you go to a place like Bali is that it's a lot of trophy successes.
Revenue numbers without profit.
Revenue numbers, yeah, big revenue numbers. Oh, he's doing 50k a month. Is something that you hear so often. And it's like he's doing 50k a month, but he's still not making money. Like he's still in the red. He's still losing money. But they don't look at that because they talk about the revenue all the time. So that it's crazy. But the idea, it's actually funny, man. When you said that there, it dawned on me that I did my yearly reflections on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I never mentioned one of the biggest ones with the business on it at all. That I changed the name from Mobility Tutor to Robbie Cassidy. I never even mentioned that on the podcast. I was just thinking about that because. That speaking about being in alignment, I started out with a real interest in mobility and movement, and that was like my pride and joy. I loved it, and a lot of it was because I was flexible, and I just really liked UFC, different sports like that, and you could see them using it in the more. And it was something I enjoyed, let's say, okay. But as I got through the years, and as I qualified, and I went into physio then after, I noticed that. Because before I went into physio, what I was going to go into was psychology, and it just didn't, like they were the two that I was going to go out. And then I was looking at it and I was saying, okay, I can do one and then do the other one after. That was kind of the goal. So if I end up doing a psychology degree soon enough, I'm saying it here first. But the reason being is that when I went into physio, the psychological aspects to injury was something that really stuck out to me because it's something that I had run into in years before that, playing sports, doing boxing, different things like that. Where you would notice an injury kicking up, as soon as you get in the ring, bell rings and it's completely gone. You know, it's this idea, that always fascinated me. And it always fascinated me how people put out different things based off of some type of pain that they get. Or they don't do certain things based off of a pain that they get. Oh, I don't run because of my knees. I don't exercise in the gym because of my back. And it becomes this narrative that you live by. So when I went into the physio degree, and I was going through it, and I was understanding this biopsychosocial model of pain, the way there's biological contributes to pain, your psychological contributes to pain, your environment or your social contributes to pain. I was like, my God, this is what I have been looking for years. Now the company, my company, let's say, is Mobility Tutor still, okay? Because I feel that I can serve people under Mobility Tutor because it's a brand name that's been there for a long time, and I can run courses under it and I can do that. But the idea of just straight working on mobility has transitioned now. And that was a big reason of why I went to Robbie Cassidy. Is now it's more like a lot of people, when I'm talking to them, they're like, oh, you're the guy who does back injuries. And it is. It's that change of brand and that change of alignment has really, really made me so much more focused on what, like, I know exactly what I can help people with. Like, exactly. If you come to me, you could come to me now if you wanted to with an ACL tear, because I've just spent the last year correcting my own injury, and I would be very, very confident I'd know what to do. But if you came to, like, I say to people, there's better people for that. They're like the biomechanical stuff of where you need to, this is phase 1, this is phase 2, this is phase 3, this is phase 4. But if you have an injury that's going on consistently, a chronic one, like over 3 to 6 months, it flares up, it messes with your head, you're thinking about it all the time, and the pain limits what you can do. You have this vision of the future of you not being able to hang out with your kids or play with your kids. You see kind of a negative future, then I'm absolutely the perfect guy to work with, I feel, from my perspective. Because then what I'll do is we can learn about why the body kicks up, we can learn about what to do, we can learn about how to fix it, and then how to reframe everything so long term you're getting better. But I wasn't able to make that complete commitment to change until I changed the name. Until I changed the name of it. For whatever reason. It was Mobility Tutor before, and I was like, I can just, if I haven't posted in a while, I can just stick up a mobility video and it'll be grand, it'll work away. But now, since I made that change, my God, I don't know what the difference is. Maybe you'll be able to explain it better, but I have a completely different focus on where I'm going and what I can do. And it was such a simple thing with just a name change. I have a completely different focus on that. Any ideas on where that development comes out of? It's the alignment side of things, isn't it? It's that, like, it's the branding side.
For sure. I think, so it's personal brand.
It's personal, yeah.
And personal brand, by the way, is the most important thing for anyone in the online space in the coming few years.
Yeah.
Personal brand and community, because the cost of information is going to zero. You can get any information you want, but information, like we discussed, doesn't solve problems for people. In fact, most people now have too much information. So that brand, I'm not sure exactly why you've had such a big change in your approach and attitude since changing the name, but I can only guess that you've, like you said, it's now your name.
It's me now.
So it has to be in alignment with what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's not I have the mobility tutor, this mobility thing, but I'm not 100% sure if I want to stay in that space. It's, I'm Robbie Cassidy and this is what the fuck I want to do.
Yeah.
Can I curse on your podcast?
You can curse away, yeah.
Perfect, brilliant. Fucking great. Sorry, I won't take the piss. But this is me, this is what I want to do, this is my reputation, this is my brand. And I think when you're in that headspace, you only do the things that you want to do, and that just brings a certain amount of alignment, energy. I don't know if you can call it, I just coined that term, but let's call it alignment energy. Oof. Where you are the main focus and you are the driving force of the business. And if you think about this, the biggest businesses in the world, think of the people behind them. Tesla, Elon Musk is way bigger than Tesla. His personal brand is way bigger than Tesla. Yeah. Trump, whether you like him or hate him, whatever, but his personal brand is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
He just not influenced, but won an entire election, and has won 2 elections from before Trump got into office. People laughed at him, even being a candidate.
It's a reality TV show.
Yeah. And his personal brand is absolutely everything. So I think when your name is on the line as well, there's more excitement, but also you wanna prove
It's
your point as well. It's reputation, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess as well, it broke the mold for you, because you were a mobility tutor for what, 6-7 years, more even?
Nearly 8. I'm doing it 9 years this year. Yeah. So yeah, it's probably 8 years. Just changed last year.
There you go. So that's that's breaking the mold. And to be honest, that's so impressive that you were with mobility tutor. You stuck to one thing for so long. I have been through so many different ideas and projects and failed businesses, and every 3 or 4 months I was jumping ship to try and do something different and changing my name and changing my program and, you know, property management company, influencer agency, and all this other stuff, like these projects. It was just absolute chaos. So the fact that you stayed with something for so long is incredibly impressive, firstly. But secondly, when you stick with something so long, I guess in a sense you're almost imprisoned by it.
Yeah.
And even when it's successful, because you put so much effort and work and thought into the brand and the branding, you maybe don't want to jump ship. You're a little bit worried. And then when you finally go, fuck it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go Robbie Cassidy. I'm going to build my personal brand, and I'm going to move away from the thing and the branding that I've promoted for like the best part of a decade.
Yeah.
I imagine that was kind of scary for you, firstly.
At the start, yeah, for sure. But I think that everyone had known me. I remember being out in Galway one night and a guy saying to me, "Oh, you're the podcast guy." And I just remember thinking, "Oh yeah, okay, grand."
Yeah.
I can change now if that's the case. I honestly remember that being a thing at the time, because I was like, okay, you're not connecting me directly to the Instagram, so it might be something else.
For sure.
And that I think that was a nice one to be like, okay, grand. It's not just the mobility tutor as a name. But I think you're right in everything that you said there. There's a huge reputational argument about now when you put your name on it.
And also, when you break that mold of 8 years, and you are scared it's a big decision, or you know, you're like, what about if all the work I did just gets pushed aside because I changed the name? But of course, that's not the reality. Like, you know, you met this guy, he's like, oh, you're the podcast guy. It's like people still recognize you, know you, follow you. Doesn't matter what your name is.
Yeah.
And it's actually even better that it's your real name because it feels more personal.
Yeah.
But I'm sure when you actually broke the mold, there was probably a big relief where it's like, I've done it now. Because I'm sure it was on your mind for quite some time before you did it.
Yeah.
So I imagine you also got a lot of just relief energy. And possibly also relief energy where, okay, I'm relieved, I actually made this. But then also maybe a little bit of fear where you're like, now I need to make sure it works. And then just alignment energy where you're like, you start to see that it is working, that you made the right decision, that things are moving forward, and you're just more in alignment. So that would be my guess.
I think if you look at, speaking from experience, anyone who doesn't know own story about where he was, especially in his teenage years, to where he is now, the change and the alignment energy, if you're using that, I can see what you're talking about. I understand what you mean more, because there is more of a gung ho of like, this is me now, this is my thing, this is what I can do, I can develop this. It's not just a thing that I have at the side here. That's interesting. Now let's look at that from, we're both coaches. Let's look at that from a coaching perspective. Somebody's watching this, they're running into trouble, they're in a position that they feel like they need to make a big change in their life in some way or another. What are the first couple of steps that you start to look at to start to get them into that? Let's just say something easy, they're going to exercise.
Honestly, something that's been really helpful for me in making big life decisions, and you might laugh at the simplicity of this, but it's literally taking 2 sheets of paper and just writing pros and cons, and actually writing them out. Because let's take the starting exercise, for example. People are maybe worried that I'll just drop off, it won't work out, or I'll start to lose my friends, or like, I don't know what they want. There's a list. But if you actually start to put down the pros of exercise, it'll be save money because I'm not going out drinking at the weekends, eat healthier, lose weight, be more confident, make new friends who go to the gym. Like there's such a long list of pros, and what you normally notice is that when you're making a big decision and you're kind of stuck, there's probably like 1 or 2 possible cons that are holding you back. And sometimes it's like, oh, what would my family think if I start working out? They'll start teasing me because I'm not a gym person. It could be something simple like this, where people are worried that their friends will judge them or laugh at them for going to the gym. Like something so stupid. It sounds so, but I understand it. It's not stupid. It makes sense from just the way that we view the world.
It makes sense in their own mind as well.
So it's not that the person is stupid, but it's such a stupid little thing to stop you from changing your life. And a lot of the time, if you actually write out the list on these decisions, you normally have like 20 pros and 3 cons. Like the pros and then when you actually see these 2 sheets of paper side by side, you're like, holy shit, how could I like I have to do this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was helpful for me. I think that's around making the decision to change.
Yeah.
I think if you've made the decision, the most important thing for you to do for any change you want is to change your environment.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I did. And yeah, for everyone who doesn't know, I went through 10 years of absolute chaos in my early teenage years to my early 20s. You name it, I did it without exception. If you grew up in any wild corner of the Irish party scene, you probably have an idea of what I'm talking about. So I was very much at the top of that for quite some time. And it took me to actually move country and go to New York and completely change my environment, delete all my socials, and go all in on health and fitness and business building and all these things that I always had an interest in, but I just I had too many bad habits and addictions and stuff to keep me from actually getting stuck into the things that matter. And the environment change overnight. Oh, that click didn't work. There we go. Third time lucky. Overnight, literally overnight.
Yeah.
My habits changed. Like my entire life just changed overnight, and it was easy. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing. If you've made the decision, but you're struggling to follow through in it, environment, and that could be the case of being in the back pain impact exercise group.
Yeah.
People are trying to fix this pain, but they're buying, painkillers or one-off supplements or these things that just don't get results, or they're buying, I don't know,
just
foam rollers or something.
Yeah,
I don't even know what they're buying, but being in an environment, and I think a big piece that I've learned from you just around the whole pain thing is so much of it is not physical, it's psychological.
There's a huge element of it, yeah.
And just belief and worry and fear and anxiety. And if you're surrounded by other people who are dealing with the same thing, and you see people who are having success who felt like you, it's like that environment is going to change things massively. And I see it as well in my business building group in the mastermind. There's people in there with 40 clients, and there's people in there with 5 clients.
Yeah.
And the 5 client guys looking up to the guys with 40 clients they can see what's possible, they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And if they're having a difficult period, because at the start it's not easy, and it gets progressively easier, or maybe you just get better at it, and you get tougher and you get more resilient, but that environment just sustains change and sustains things as well. So that's basically the 2 big things that I would do. I would get very clear on the pros and cons of a decision, and when I'm in a position to make a decision, I would make sure that my environment actually sets me up for success.
Yeah, and even to piggyback on that, the idea of community, environment, community makes such a difference. If you are with a group of people who every Friday night they go down and they're going drinking, and then every Saturday they're getting up early to go watch Premier League, and then so they can go drinking again, it's going to be challenging to break that mold. Now you can start going if you want to, if you're disciplined, you can start going with them and just say, I'm not drinking. That's perfectly okay. And that probably takes a little bit of time to build up. Like myself, I don't struggle with that, so it's not something that has ever been a problem for me. But I can see in situations where friends have come along with us and they're saying, oh, like I don't want to drink, and then someone just says, oh, go on, like just messing, kind of go on, and then it just takes 1 or 2 things like that and they break, and they break. And it's like, oh Jesus, like you need to stick up there a little bit longer. But in the best situation, if you just weren't here, it'd be so much easier for you. So I think community is a big one as well. And as you mentioned with the back to exercise, that's something that's huge. Is we jump on the calls together and we're all there as a group and we're talking through it. And I have people in there who I've worked with for years, and there's people who are brand new. And I just let them talk to each other in a lot of cases where they're like, this works, this has worked for me, Robbie taught me this, and just let them speak to each other. And then they can say, okay, well, I'm going to try this out. And it's that idea of having light at the end of the tunnel. I jumped on Owen's mastermind this morning, and it was the same idea. It was a group of people with the same goal, a nice community, and everyone was chatting about, okay, like Owen was saying, this is what you can do, this is what you can do, and it's the same, jumped onto me, and still giving advice, looking at, okay, maybe you improve this, maybe you focus on this, and we were able to go back over and back on it. And when you're listening, if you're in a position that maybe you're brand new, and he's talking to me about what I'm doing, and my socials have been up a while, people might be able to pick up what they can do, and they say, okay, well, it is actually a lot easier to do it. It's the exact same when I'm listening to him talking to someone who has 5 clients, and he's like, this is the basics, and I'm like, oh my God, I've been forgetting to do the basics so much. So there is, I think community is so important as well, where it's like you just have to figure out what community you want to be in, what community you want to be a part of, and how that will impact your life going forward. And having that longer term vision of seeing this is where I'm trying to go, this is what I'm trying to achieve. It's a powerful way to live life, because the purpose. I think that's a thing that scares people a small bit, is that if you've ever woken up one day, you're really hungover and you're like, oh Jesus, that I don't know, I shouldn't have drank it all last night, and you have no purpose in your life the next morning. When I'm hungover, for me especially, if I'm hungover, the mental, like, what's the word, like, what's the opposite of clarity?
Fuzz.
The buzz, the mental fuzz, yeah.
Uncertainty.
The uncertainty that I had the next day after drinking is crazy. Like, I could have the best week of work and I could be extremely focused, and I wake up the next day on a Sunday morning and I'm thinking, well, I need to get a physio job. Here, I need change. I need to just go down and out. And it happens to me so consistently. Like, so it's getting to the point that I was like, I don't even like drinking. I haven't liked drinking for years, but that if you have no purpose on what you're doing, you're constantly stuck in that state of mind. And I think that people don't realize that when you're in it. It's like, it is a state of mind that is sticky. It's sticky. Yeah. So finding a purpose and finding an avenue that you can go down, and in a lot of cases, once you find that avenue, once you set that long-term goal, as I said, once you have the pros and cons, it's about looking for the community of people that you can then put yourself into. Okay, couch to 5k, perfect. See a lot of people doing that. Run clubs, really, really good. Paddle, there'll be a friend of this watching this who will love that. Paddle is another big one as well that people need to start looking at. Paddle tennis, that is. It's the fastest growing sport in the world. I have a friend who's going to be building, we won't speak too much on it, but keep an eye. Soon enough we'll be able to talk about it in more detail. There's different communities, there's different people that you can jump in with. Just find them. Find them, and your purpose will come. What do you think?
Yeah, we discussed fulfillment earlier, right? And you probably know there's some great quote. I can't remember where it's from. Is it maybe Sun Tzu or one of the old Asian philosophers? I'm not sure, but you should have somebody, I'm butchering the quote by the way, I'm paraphrasing, but you should have somebody ahead of you, you should have someone at your level, and you should have somebody below you. So somebody ahead of you is a mentor, a teacher, someone you can learn from, somebody whose footsteps you can follow in. Then you need someone at your level who's like your sparring partner, right? In boxing, you have a sparring partner who's not miles better than you, he's not miles worse than you, he's close to your level. You guys can really push each other and really improve if you're close. And you probably learn as much sparring with him than you do with even the guys at a higher level, because you're actually implementing more with them and probably learning more from the higher guys. Yeah. And then you have the guys who are teaching, the younger guys in the boxing club, or the new members in the back end program. Yeah. And you get really good at understanding concepts and principles when you've got all three of these, and you've got someone above you, someone below you, someone at your level. So like in your back pain program, someone who's been with you for 2 years, you're still above them, you're still teaching them stuff they're not knowing, you're bringing them to the next stage. There's probably other people in the group who are also there for a couple of years, and they're like at the same level and they have more context and experience, and then they're teaching the new guys who come in. And so those guys in the middle are actually learning at a way faster rate as well. And this is the thing with community, you have to teach a concept, you have to really learn it. And it's like you said with the mastermind this morning, you've been in an online business for years, almost a decade, but you'd still come onto a call and somebody with 5 clients who just started 2 months ago will ask a question that has some relevancy for you, and you go, oh, I knew that, but I'm not doing it, I forgot about it. Because as we go on, we almost forget about some of the stuff that worked. Yes. And I'm sure with Jiu-Jitsu it's the same. You're learning from everyone that you roll with, you're teaching. When you teach, you learn more. And community, aside from that, it's just way more enjoyable. Aside from the fact that you learn better, it's also normally a more affordable option for people. Yeah. Like most of the time when people are in communities, it's actually more affordable than like just doing one-to-one stuff, especially in the coaching realm. But it's actually so much more enjoyable. Like I absolutely love rocking up to my mastermind calls and having 5 or 6 people there on the call, and we're all discussing different problems and people are at different stages of the journey, and it's just so much value and there's so much different perspective, and it's absolutely incredible. And like you said, the fulfillment and the purpose piece is, if you find yourself in a community of people who are doing the things that you find interesting, and there's people above, below, at your level, you're teaching, you're learning, you're sparring, there's so much fulfillment and enjoyment in that, and a lot of people are lacking that. And let's be real, like most people don't, like 70 or 80% of people don't like their jobs, and you can't, not everyone can change that, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, but if you're in a job that you dislike, and you've no fulfillment in that, well, go and find some community. And for example, maybe you're in a job you dislike and you have this recurring back pain, and it's really hard for you to find enjoyment in life because the job is not fun, you don't really enjoy it, you're kind of sick of it.
Yes.
It pays the bills, but you don't love it. And then when you're off, you can't really do the sports that you used to love, and you're probably just kind of killing time, maybe watching too much TV. Go and find a group of people who are working on the issue that you have, and you'll meet so many cool people and make so many connections and just have an enjoyable, fulfilled journey.
And the thing about it is, when you're in that community, when you've overcome the obstacles, because people are probably saying like, well, if it's going on that long, how could it be still there? The thing is, once you overcome something, like, and especially in the business, like if you're jumping on board with Owen, and I know you had an offer there recently, it was get up to your 5k month, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we've had a few different ones, but we had 5 clients in 30 days.
Oh, yeah.
We had 3k in 90 days. We've had a few different ones.
That's the one I was looking at, is a 3k in 90 days. So the people that hit the 3k are generally not going to stop there, okay? And the thing about it is, once they continue to push on, and this is the reason I'm talking about this is it goes down to the idea of purpose. They start pushing on, and they start saying, okay, like I'm really enjoying this, and they then get more purpose helping the people in the group underneath them. That's what, like, I don't know about you, I've always loved the idea of coaching because a lot of people have helped me out in life. A lot. I've been very lucky in life. A lot of people have helped me out at different times for different things. And I think the one thing that really sits with me well, it's something that it kind of drives me, is the idea of being able to help someone else. And it's the same thing in the back pain group. If someone's been there for like a couple of years, generally I'm working with them one-to-one, and they jump into the calls. And what they've gotten from that is they're starting to push on, they're running marathons, they're back exercising 100%, they're doing their own bit, but they enjoy coming back into the group to help people through. And just to say, these are things that you can work on, these things work for me. And they're now getting purpose from exercising, doing their own exercise, achieving their own goals, but they're also helping the people underneath them. And I think that's something that we forget about, is like, if you want to feel better, make someone else feel better. If you want to feel better for yourself today, do something for somebody else, and just watch how that lifts your spirits. And you don't need to go on tell everyone you did it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it and watch the results that you get off it. So they're the main things, I think, that if you are on a journey, if you are looking to change the position that you're in, the community is so powerful. It's a really, it's something that people miss out on often, and I think that everyone can improve on it. I thought the microphone was off there for a second. That scared me. Otherwise, I'm just checking here now, we're probably an hour gone. Anything else you want to chat about?
I think just one thought that popped into my head that I would like to share around communities as well is I listened to this really interesting podcast recently. I think it was Mel Robbins. I'm not sure if you know who she is.
Yeah.
I actually don't even know her credentials.
Her and Tony Robbins have that business together.
Yeah, is she a sister or a
wife?
Is it the wife?
Fairly sure Mel Robbins is Tony Robbins' wife, yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. I thought she wasn't, but anyway, it's irrelevant. We can figure it out. I'm not sure who's. Put it in the comments, people. Is Mel Robinson the wife of Tony? Mel Robbins.
Okay.
Is Mel Robbins the wife of Tony Robbins?
I think she
If
is.
she is, put it in the comments. If she isn't, put it in the comments.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure it was her firstly. And she was talking about how when you're an adult, it's actually way harder to form friendships and relationships because of your environment, which we talked about already, right?
Mm-hmm.
The whole way up through your childhood, you're spending time in school, you're surrounded by groups of kids, you're going to sports clubs, you're going to school plays, you're going to, study class. You're just constantly surrounded by people. Then when you get your teenage years, you're going to discos, you're going to events, you're going to different sports events, you're going to different places to meet other people, you're probably going to like your next biggest town and meeting more people. Then you go to college and it's like now you're probably in a big city or a relatively big city and you're meeting even more people. And then bang, you're in the workforce.
Yeah.
And you're kind of just meeting your colleagues, but often you meet colleagues who are at a different stage of life. And I think part of the reason that we have such a strong friendship is we're a year apart in age.
Yeah.
So we've always been very close in terms of what we have going on with life. You know, if one of us was 10 years older than the other, it probably would have just probably just wouldn't be as relevant for each other. I know that sounds bad to like talk about a friend as being relevant, but I had a lot of good colleagues or people that I worked with throughout the years. But if they were 10 years older than me, they would only ever really be colleagues versus really close friends because they were in a different stage of life. And now as I get a little bit older, that might be different. But I think when you're between 20 and 30, particularly, some of your friends are, you know, getting married, having kids. Some of your friends are traveling the world. Some of your friends are just, you know, getting themselves together. Some of your friends are killing it. Some of them are having a really tough time. And everyone is just kind of scattered all over the place and in these random jobs everywhere. And I think that it's actually hard, you know, you meet a lot of acquaintances, but it's hard to find people who are like really like you.
Yeah.
You know, just in everyday life, because you have to meet a lot of people for that to happen. And I would say, back to the social circle thing, I've probably met, I moved to Sofia in January of last year, and I've got like 400 followers on Instagram in Sofia since then, on my personal account, right? And that's probably, you know, it's probably not 80 or 90% people I actually met in person.
Yeah.
And out of that, there's a handful who I really clicked with. A handful who I actually want to spend a lot of time with. You know, probably 10.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to meet a lot of people. But the easiest way to meet people is to get into communities of things. Like, you can literally just, instead of paying money to go out and socialise and go to bars and clubs to try and meet friends, just join a paid community of people who have a problem that you want to solve that you also have, or that's interesting to you. It's such a life hack to meet the right people.
Yeah.
And it's so easily available, and I think people are lonely right now. They don't really know how to meet people. They're not as social as they used to be. And I really think community is just the way going forward with technology and the way things are changing. I cannot beat the drum of community loud enough.
Oh yeah, no, I think there's a lot to be gained from it. Like, I've gained some of the best experiences in my life in different communities that I've joined, both in person and online. It's and I think that if you are, I suppose that kind of comes back to the original question. If you are someone who's looking to make a change, if you're in a position that you're not happy with, first off, lay out your pros and cons to change. First off, have an understanding of where you want to go and what you want to do. And then once you have that understanding, you can start to dip your toes in the water and look at the things that are around you and try out new things. I think that you'll be amazed by what you come across. Another little trick on that is, if you try something new, do it 5 times before you make a decision. I think that's one that people forget often, is like, if you try something that you've never done before, and then the first time is always going to be the most challenging. But at least if you commit to 5 times, you're committing to yourself. And you're saying, okay, I'm going to do this 5 times. Even if by the 3rd and 4th time I'm like, oh, it's not really good. Stick it out and do the 5 sessions of it and just see how you get on. That's something that has helped me as well. And it's like, when you look at especially more challenging things, like if you're looking at getting back into longer distance running, or even like, as we were saying, like even the gym, or a gym environment, the first time you go to a new gym is never really the nicest time that you go to a gym. You know, you have to get into the swing of things. So I think try it 5 times before you make a decision is a nice rule that's worked for me. But from now, I think that's everything that we want to cover. I think that we went through a lot there. We're talking about a lot of different, I guess, scenarios, issues, situations, things that we've learned over the last while. It's been nice as well catching up again with the main man. As always, I do enjoy it, and you're a pleasure to have on.
It's always a pleasure, brother. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for jumping on. The first podcast I was ever on was actually Owen's podcast, and he was the one who kickstarted my podcast. So yeah, that's everything that we're going to chat about today. I would love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear if you picked up something new from it. If you do have any questions, if you are looking at getting into the online space, if you are in the online space and you're looking to improve and develop your business more, I highly recommend Owen. He's helped me ridiculously over the last couple of months. That's complete honesty. It's had a huge impact on my business, on the way I look at it, on the systems that I apply, on the efficiency of it, the effectiveness of it, everything. So I do appreciate all the work that he's helped me with, and thank you for that. Anything you want to say before you jump off?
Just thank you for the very kind words, and always a pleasure. And thank you for a thoroughly enjoyable conversation. And I want to know if Mel Robbins is Tony Robbins' wife, so get it in the comments.
Yeah, and then otherwise, if you are struggling with pain, if you're struggling with injuries, if an injury has impacted your confidence, I'm the guy to reach out to. You can get in contact with me at info@themobilitytutor.com or Robbie Cassidy _ on Instagram. I would love if you could subscribe and rate this podcast. I'm trying to get up to 1,000 ratings at the moment on Spotify, and I'm way off it at the moment, like 100 and something. So, nice little goal to be setting out for this year, but I would love if you could help me with that along the way. Find Owen on Instagram at Owen Dobbin Coaching.
Owen Dobbin Caddo.
Caddo is the one, okay. Owen Dobbin Caddo.
It's updated. It's been changed a few times.
Okay, well, this is the one to stick with. Owen Dobbin Caddo. That is all from us today. Thank you for watching, and I'll chat to you all at the same time next week.